Thank you all for being here for the Monday, September 23rd, 2024 regular meeting of the Southwest City School Board. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. D'Angelo Steele.
Here.
Ms. Liskini.
Here.
Ms. Martindale.
Here.
Mrs. Peterson.
Here.
Mr. Bosso.
Here. Moving on, adoption of the agenda. To recommend the Board of Education approve the agenda for the September 23rd, 2024 regular meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Martindale. Second, please.
Second, Liskini.
Thank you, Mrs. Liskini. Roll call. Or is there any additions or corrections? I'm sorry. Seeing none, roll call. Thank you. Sorry.
Ms. Martindale.
Yes.
Ms. Liskini.
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Steele.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Bosso.
Yes. Moving on to approval of the minutes. It's recommended Board of Education approve the minutes from the September 9th, 2024 regular meeting of the school board. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Martindale. Can I get a second?
Second, Peterson.
Thank you, Mrs. Peterson. Any additions or corrections to that? Seeing none, roll call.
Ms. Martindale.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Mrs. D'Angelo Steele.
Yes.
Ms. Liskini.
Yes.
Mr. Bosso.
Yes. Moving on, we have 3 presentations for tonight. The first will be School Spotlight with Hayes Intermediate School with Mr. Nessler.
Good evening, President Bosso, Vice President Martindale, members of the board, Mr. Banks and Mr. Garside. Thank you for having me here tonight and being able to share the fantastic work of the students and staff at Hayes Intermediate. It's a special place to be. If you've ever been to one of our Student of the Month breakfasts, you will hear me say each one of those. It's not by accident. It's because of the partnership that we get to have with the parents and the community of Hayes that makes it such a special place to be. So thanks for letting me come in and share tonight those things. Our academic growth, we are so proud of the achievements of our students and staff last year. 5th grade math had a 74% proficient rate, which was above what we had last year. Also, the majority of our students scoring in that accomplished range, so they just weren't proficient. They were going above and beyond and making that growth and showing all the excellence that they have. Also, our co-taught classrooms, which include general education students, special education students grouped together, 2 teachers in the room, all averaging at that proficient level, is a big celebration for them. They worked very hard on that and worked every day, getting just a little bit better where we came in and where we took a step forward each and every day. In 6th grade math, they were 72% proficient, a 9% increase. And the work that they did as part of our continuous improvement plan that they worked towards was looking at all of the assessments that they were given and then correlating those back to the performance level indicators and the performance level descriptors for students, so that way they could really hone in on what's a proficient level student doing, what's an accomplished student doing, what is a basic student doing, so they knew where to intervene in small groups and what to do with them. And, go back, whoever. That's okay. And the last slide there is the 27% increase in the number of students who were proficient on that ELA test. We get an item analysis, so we were able to see on just the writing sample that we had that 27% increase. And the pictures that you see up there, that work was all based whole building. It's not up there, but if you walk into the Hayes gym, you're going to see one of those whiteboards, and up there you might see the goal of pickleball, how are we going to improve? And written underneath of that is cover the court, communicate. And they're using those boards to work together to really communicate and look at problems. You see a couple of math examples up there and an ELA example in the pictures. Just fantastic work, and where they're going this year with that is how do we take that work that we do in small group and take it back to independence? So once we've done that, how do we take it back to our seat and really show that myself can do it, not just with the group? So that is the work that they're continuing to do in academia. This next part, it's the special place. It is really something that we hold near and dear and proud in our hearts, and we continue to add programs. What you see up here is the Amazing Shake. and this is the Circle of Doom event in the Amazing Shake. So for about 12 weeks, students are given lessons on soft skills and business, and they sign up, they volunteer for this, and then we invite in community members from all across Franklin County. You'll see we've got Grove City Police represented there, the fire department's in there somewhere, one of our other intermediate principal colleagues is there, and they're doing quick interview questions with students, and they're being judged. And this is, our PTA comes in also and helps with this. If you would have come to the Hayes Gym, or you come to the Hayes Gym this year, we turned the Hayes Gym into the Hayes Conference Room. And we decorated like the Hilton, partnered with Purple Door Church, and had tables brought in, PTA tablecloths, centerpieces, the whole 9 yards, pizza salad buffet served by them. It's a great partnership with the community, with our PTA and our school programming to really bring a unique opportunity for our students. And then the other slide that you see here on the picture is the Hounds and Huskies. That is a tutoring program that we do in partnership with Grove City High School. And what I love about this is that our students are benefiting, families who reach out and say maybe their student doesn't quite feel like they're part of the community. They're getting some tutoring, some recognition from a Grove City High School student. A lot of those are former Hayes students. They love to come back and be a part of that because Hayes meant so much to them. So they come back. Our high school students are getting hours towards any one of the SEALs for their graduation where they can get those. So it's a great partnership with the high school that we're able to do, and our families and the community are all benefiting from that. The last slide, if you've been at Hayes, this is who we are. We're Husky Strong. Each and every day we talk about coming to school, be respectful, be responsible, and be ready. And that's what it means to be a Hayes Husky every day. We also have the Hayes House System, and in this day and age, 91% is a pretty good approval rating, so we will take it that 91% of the students reported that they like or love the house system. And here are, just because they're the student quotes, and this is what it meant to them. So I want to read them directly from the slides. That way you can hear directly from them what they had to say. It is really fun. It allowed me to get to know more people and make new friends. I like the program, puts you in groups with people you don't know, so you can meet them and maybe become friends with them. You are part of a group that is not extracurricular. I think that's really important. It's another sense of belonging, gets them there every day together. I like how all the houses support each other. You see up there, the one family is an important line as part of this. This last one is the Hayes House program is one of my favorite things about school. It is so fun, and I've made so many new friends. We will have parents come in and go, my kid told me that they could not miss today because it was house meeting day. And I see some of you shaking your heads. You've had this happen where all of a sudden your family vacation or the thing that you've planned that needs to get done has to change because it is house meeting Friday and it means so much to them. And it's staff-led, but it's really student-led. The students are taking the ownership of this. The students are running the house meetings. It's a really strong leadership group and has created fantastic opportunities for our students and our PTA who help support it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions or anything for Mr. Nessler?
I have a couple things. Thank you, Mr. Nessler. Awesome work. I'm so excited. Can you just share a little bit about that academic growth and what you think is the difference at your building that you're seeing that growth?
I think some of it is the partnership that we have with families and that they come in. I think also the work that our teachers are doing, and this is across the board. This building thinking classrooms work is happening at every building. If you walk into lots of the buildings across the district, you're gonna see these whiteboards come up. One of our 5th grade math TBT is the group that kind of took it on and did a book study, and then they've been doing the professional development for the staff. So it's staff leading staff who are leading kids, which I think always makes a big difference when the voices from within, and then they're seeing the benefit of that. It makes a huge difference for students.
Awesome. And can you share a little bit about how the house system works at your building, and especially with the special education students?
Yeah, so every student, we have 3 ESC units, 2 STAC, which are autism and other diagnoses, and 1 ESC cross-cat and 2 district cross-categorical units. They are all part of a house. They participated in our house days, the last 2. They're a part of it all. because they're part of our building and they participate on the regular. Students actually work with the staff members of the ESC to adapt. Sometimes for some students too, they will go in, and last year we had a couple of students in particular who didn't like being in that large group of 26. They would actually go in and run it in their smaller class size of 6. So for those students who needed that, they would do that. So they were still a part of all of that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to say, this is something that Julie thought of, to have our principals come in and give the good things going on in the district. Thank you, Julie. But you've set the bar very high with your enthusiasm and everything, Mr. Nestler. Thank you so much.
No, you're good, you're good.
So we'll have more.
You have
of
to
these
come to
every
Voices in
month.
the Grove for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. We have the next presentation is our local report card with our Dr. Brian Bowser and also Christine.
Well, thank you. Hard act to follow, Mr. Nestler.
You want to drop the mic and run out the door too?
President Bozo, Vice President Martindale, members of the board, Mr. Banks, and Mr. Garside, thanks for having us. What you just got to hear is some of the great granular work happening in the building and the classroom, and what Mrs. Galvin and I are going to try to do is take you up about 35,000 feet and talk about the local report card that the State Department released last week. Next slide, please. Some celebrations, and we have some predictability. You know, through the almost 30 years that I've done this, we've had every rating system that you could possibly think of, but for the 3rd year in a row, we've stayed with the STAR system. But within the STAR system, we do have some nuance and change that I'll talk about throughout, meaning some calculations and things change inside of particular pillars. And then finally, I think it's important to state and couch that this is one moment in time, one tool that we definitely take a look at to continue focusing on continuous improvement, but it's not the only one. And what you just witnessed was a clear example of some real data. So next slide. Reorient ourselves to the STAR system. The 3 stars, the green right in the middle, that's the state expectation, right where you're aiming to be according to ODU now. If you're 4 and 5, you're above the state's expectation. 2 is slightly Hi. 2 is slightly below, meaning needs a little support, and I'm not going to talk about 1 because we don't have any, so we don't need to worry about that. Exactly. Next category. Right now we have 6 evaluative categories, or 6 silos. I'm going to talk about achievement, progress, gap closing, the early literacy, graduation. Coming in 2025 is college, career, workforce, and military readiness. And Mrs. Galvin's going to actually talk about the CTE report card on the heels of that. But then all of that culminates in an overall rating. Next slide. So how did we do? Let's start at the top with achievement. We received 2 stars, so that's just slightly below what the state expectation is. Let me tell you how slightly below. We missed it by 0.1%. I mean, a horsehair. And if that's a term. But the reality is, what we know for sure is, how do we influence that? We continue to grow every child. The way this is calculated is, as children perform higher and higher, they're awarded a gradient of performance that gives them more points the higher they score. So as we lift you up, which is what we're really good at, I'm going to talk about that in a second, you receive more points. If we're in the throes of still calculating, but if just the students who were absent for whatever reason, they had the flu, were in Zimbabwe or Hawaii, would have just shown up, we would have gotten the 3 stars. That's how close we were. The other thing I need to tell you about here is a recalculation. This is one of those nuances in the silo that changed. So in the olden days, the performance index was a flat ceiling. It was the top. They've changed it now that the top moves based on the top 2% of the state. Their performance moves the ceiling. So what happened with our performance overall is we stayed about flat, not where we want to stay, but not bad, we held our own. The top 2% moved up. So if we would have had last year's ceiling, we'd have the 3 stars. Because it moved and we stayed relatively flat, we missed it by a hair. We're chasing it, we'll get it. The next one is early literacy. This one I've been frank about since this measure was released. I think this is a false measure. Here's what we know for sure. Our youngest learners, we need to grow faster and we need to work harder. We know that. I mean, that's not a secret. The reason that this, thanks Evan, the reason that this calculation I believe is flawed is for 2 reasons. First of all, the data is so old, it's hard to chase anything. The data that calculates this measure right here is actually from the fall of 23 compared to the fall of 22. So we're talking 3 years ago now. Our kids are in this right now and we'll be looking 2 years down the line before we'll even be able to see the change. So it's hard to measure up about what you're doing and is it really making a difference. The other calculation in here that I believe is a flaw, it's not apples to oranges. You have a choice of what diagnostic drives your score. So the really easy thing to do would be pick a diagnostic that says, guess what, everybody's just fine. We don't. We pick one that says we have kids falling behind and we have to do something about it. So that makes this one a little bit challenging. We're not shying away from it. We know that we need some work to do here. And I'll talk about that later down in my slides. Let's move on to celebration. We hit the 3 stars in graduation, the highest rating in the history of the district for the first time, state expectation. That is a celebration. And there are a lot of staff, students, families, you saw them, those summer graduations, fighting to get across that finish line, that end of the football field into the scoop touchdown. That is something we should be truly proud of. Gap closing. This is another one we hit the state mark. We're proud of that. This is another one that gets tougher and tougher to close. Because as the gaps get smaller, you have to meet bigger benchmarks to score higher, right? Let me give you an example. 2 years ago, we went hard at attendance. We're continuing talking about it. We have to have kids in our classrooms to be able to teach them, right? And we closed the gap big time. Well, because we closed the gap, our goal got bigger, and we missed it this year by 0.6. So we're chasing it again. We're gonna keep working at it, but I only say that to say, had we gotten that attendance one, our staff and our families and our kids are working so hard at, we'd have the 4 stars, way above state expectation. So again, another metric inside calculation, we were right there in the hunt. And the last one, the above state expectation progress. This one is really what I think is when you talk about what does Southwestern do well, we do really well at growing kids. We are in the top 16% in the state of Ohio in this measure. And I want to give you a fact that kind of brings this to life about the students that we serve. This past year, when our kindergartners enter, they take something called the KRA, so it measures how ready they are for kindergarten. 39% of our kindergartners were ready for school. But the story gets bigger when you look at the range. And if you remember your old math class from high school, that's the range. We had one school, 78% were ready for kindergarten. And we had another one, 15%. Those kids were starting not even in the end zone, back in the bleachers. So, but what we're good at is growing them, getting them on the football field and getting them down to that graduation line, right? That's what we work really hard to do. The other thing that's important in that statistic, I believe, is the median. So if you remember math, that's the middle, is 34%. So 2 out of every 3 of our students coming to kindergarten are not ready. Our staff works really hard to grow them, and it shows in this in particular indicator. We're proud of that. I've been watching this metric over time, and I was optimistic that we were coming out of COVID. We were just in one of the, it's like if we ever say the word again, that won't be too soon, right? And we were recently, some of us were at a high school listening to high school kids. They're still talking about it too. It's real. And our kindergarten score had ticked up from the previous fall. We were at 34% ready, we hit 39. I'm sorry to tell you, I peeked in on what's going on right now and we've gone back down again. So I don't think we've seen the end of the effects of what our students are coming to us ready to do. But what I do know is our staff does a great job of working and growing kids no matter where they are. And that brings us to the final rating, the 3.5 stars. It's the only rating that can be in half-star increments. So that means we are above the state expectation in our overall performance. That is never where we want to stay, but I think that's something to be proud of, and here's why I'll tell you why. It's easy to sit here down in the southwest corner and look around the outer belt and compare ourselves to some other places I've worked, quite frankly. And we don't exactly look like them. But it's important to remember who we serve and where the state categorizes us. We're not the urban 8, that would be like Columbus, but the state puts us in a category they call the urban 21. And that's the 21 districts around the state that are large and diverse and have complicated stories to tell, many like ours. I'm proud to tell you we sit atop the urban 21, tied for first with both Parma up near Cleveland and Hamilton between Cincinnati and Dayton. So that's nothing to shake your stick at either, that we are performing compared to our peers, and we will continue to work hard to do so. Next slide. So what do we take away from this, and what are some things that we're doing right now? I said this before, there are a lot of things we can't control in the STAR system. What we can control is every child, every day. Wherever you come, whether you're back in the bleachers or you're out on the 25-yard line, my football analogy, I guess it's college football time. But the reality is we're gonna grow those kids and help them march on down the field. That's what we're really focused on. Every building right now is getting a hold of their data. And
I know.
now we have a fly. I know, sorry. It's like a classroom, like back here. But right now they're getting a hold of their data, they're sorting it, studying their own trends. Mr. Nessler told you some of theirs. Every building is digging into what are we doing well, what's next, what's missing. The other thing is continue to strengthen our intervention plans and our student achievement. The thing I want to point the next one is, I think we really want to watch some of the policy and materials you've helped us put in place. Last spring, you passed the cell phone policy. I love touring the district. I have no data to support this, but the anecdotal data is we heard it from high school kids, we heard it from adults, like, wow, we're covering a lot more stuff. So how will that bear out over time? We don't know. You helped us invest in new materials for those youngest learners. We're getting them out of the box. This is our year of learning. We're all trying something new. We'll have to see how those dividends pay off over time. But that will take time, and I know our teachers are committed and up for the challenge. They always are. And we have to continue to provide supports to remove barriers. I will just tell you, I'm not going to get into a lot of stories here, but it's humbling. I went over at the beginning of the school year and sat down and tried to help at our Welcome Center, Enrollment Center, in greeting families. And I will just say some of the stories that come through our doors are unsurmountable. And you've invested with us in a lot of people who are helping remove those barriers so that kids can access literacy, math, science, be ready to cross that finish line at graduation, and we couldn't be more proud of that. So with that, I'm gonna hit pause. We'll take questions at the end, but we are a little unique in Ohio because I just gave you the district overview. But we also are our own career tech planning district. Every career tech planning district gets a report card, but we happen to house our own. So Ms. Galvin, who's the director of Career Tech Ed, is gonna share those results with you now.
Thank you, Dr. Bowser. So good evening, President Bozo, Vice President Martindale, Mr. Garside, Mr. Banks, and Board of Education members. Thank you so much for letting me come and talk about career tech. Because that's my passion, and I'm excited to share our report card tonight. But I do want to start and say, even though this says CTPD report card, this is a district-wide report card. Because you just heard from Mr. Ness about his event with the handshakes and getting all the employability skills and making sure that we're telling our students it's important to be here, to be on time, to be prepared. It's the math, it's the literacy skills, it's the science. It's our middle school career tech classes that you help to support. It's also our EL staff, our special education staff, all of them have led to this report card. So I'm very excited to share that this year we received a 5-star rating. So we do have the same rating system as the district report card, where you can earn from 1 to 5 stars. We are actually rated on 4 different areas, which I'll talk about what that actually measures. But we start with achievement, and then we also have career and post-secondary success and readiness, and then we have our graduation rate and our post-program outcomes. So if you go to the next slide, I'll talk through some of the things that covers. So each of our courses have an end of course exam that's called a WebExam. And basically what that does is it measures everything that they need to learn skill-wise in their career tech courses. So when we see that achievement component, that's what it's measuring. It's looking at those WebExam results. And it's also looking at how they scored on the Algebra 1 end of course exam and the ELA 2 end of course exam. So all of those things together make up our achievement component. And we'll wait a minute here, pause. Thank you. So we also have a graduation rate, and when we're looking at our graduation rate, these are for students that are involved in career tech. So when we look at that graduation rate, that would be for any students that have taken at least 2 career tech courses. And that also looks at our 4 and 5 year graduation rates. So we actually had a 98% graduation rate for students who have taken 2 CTE courses or more. So that's an outstanding graduation. And again, that's a district-wide effort to make that happen, because as Dr. Bowser was saying, really the goal is to move those students from where they come in as kindergartners to where they leave us and prepared for what comes next. The other thing that we look at is with that post-secondary readiness, we're looking at, are they employed? Have they enrolled? Are they in the military? You know, what are they doing after they leave us? So all of our career tech staff follow up with the students after they graduate. And we ask them, what are you doing? Are you working in your career field? Have you enrolled somewhere? We track all of that. We actually had a 98% reach rate, which is amazing because sometimes it's difficult to find students after they leave us. And we track where they are, and part of that is the post-program outcomes, very high. Because we had a very successful rate of our students who are doing something, whether that's working post-secondary or military after they graduate. The other thing is our industry credentials. We continue to improve in that area where we have students earning industry credentials while they're here with us, but also after they leave us. We actually had a lot of our multi-skilled health students continue to take credentialing exams and become farm techs during the summer. Because a challenge sometimes is you have to have your diploma before you can test for some of those industry credentials. So we've worked really hard to make sure that we don't just say goodbye when they leave us, but continue to say, okay, here's your next step. We'll pay for your credential, make sure that you follow through and get that done. And we're seeing the results of that. So that's a very positive thing. The other thing is work-based learning. If you talk to any of our students at the Career Academy and in our other CTE programs, this is a definite benefit for our students where they are out on a regular basis, making money, working in industry, and a lot of our students then stay with those companies after they graduate. So it is a true career path for them after they graduate. And of course, we have our Career Technical Student Organization participation. So this would be like our business professionals. This would also be like Skills USA. So when you hear about those state competitions, the national competitions, that's all part of our career tech program. And it's about making sure that they're prepared and can communicate and show off their skills with other students. And then finally, it's about CTE pathway completion. If our students start a pathway, do they complete? Because a lot of CTPDs do not have a strong completion rate. They'll have students that start the pathway and then leave halfway through. So again, this is a reflection of the great programs that have been put in place here at Southwestern and the fact that they're completing successfully. So if you go to the next slide. Maybe. You can see our overall score. So you'll see that we actually earned 5 stars in all of the categories except for achievement, where we earned 4, which then gave us an overall rating of 5 stars. So I really appreciate the fact that you let me come and share this, because a lot of times the CTPD report card is not as well known as the district report card. So I'm just glad that we could have a chance to go through that and celebrate a little bit tonight. So thank you.
So just to wrap us up before we take any questions, recently you had hit the mailbox, the Southwesterner, and as we talk about that finish line, I think it's important to point out the many great things happening. The 34 military enlistments of last year's class, over $22 million in scholarships, almost 8,000 credits were earned by our high schoolers. 17 students walked across that stage with 2 sheets of paper, unbelievable. That doesn't even mention over 650 AP tests were taken and 2,133 of those industry recognized credentials. So just a lot to be proud of as we continue our journey to be better and better and serve kids. And with that, we will happily take questions or entertain any comments you have.
So I did have a question, but I feel like you kind of already answered it. So one of my questions was gonna be, I know that we were kind of going hard early this year and making sure that the cell phone policy was being enforced, which we're hopeful then is gonna impact behavior in the classroom, which then will help to impact our grade cards. So as you're walking around and hearing stories, I know stories that I'm hearing, from teens and, you know, teachers and staff and things, is that it's making a real difference. And, I just kind of wanted to know if there was just any more that you could share about how that's impacting and how maybe projecting, looking forward, what might come of that.
Well, I don't know that I can make a projection, but I would say it's all systems go from my vantage point with a few things of tweaks. And anecdotally, again, these are anecdotes of just people with whom I interact. The most powerful story were those of us that got to sit and listen to high schoolers last week. They were real honest. They had some feedback that I thought was, hey, grown-ups, you should think about, but overall, we have to say it's been very good. So I will just say that generally, that has been the feedback I've gotten. That doesn't mean that's everybody, but overall, that's a sentiment.
So along with some of that feedback, have you heard any feedback from staff about behaviors improving they think might be attributed to the cell phone policy being enforced?
I would continue to say behavior continues to be a topic. I have heard some celebrations of things that it's helped and certainly more things we need to do. But I would say that I've not heard anyone say because of the cell phone policy, behavior's gotten worse. How about that? So I know I'm dancing around it, but I just don't have any heart other than the few people with whom have told me stories.
Thank you.
I answered all my questions.
Do you have a question, Denise?
No, you
Okay.
answered all the ones I had right now.
You mentioned a little bit about, you know, where we have discrepancies, where we have, you know, say 15%, in one building, kindergartners are coming ready versus 85%, 87%.
78.
With our new science of reading, curriculum, when do we anticipate, I know this is the first year and all the teachers are excited about it, the ones that I have spoken with and are, you know, jumping into it. When do we think that we're gonna see that fully implemented, how long, and then how that's gonna impact our early readers?
Well, I think it's a great question. First of all, I have to give a shout out to our staff because they're working really hard. Because not only are they swimming upstream, learning the old way, they're getting stuff out of a box and studying all new things. And so that's challenging and they're to be commended. This is our year of professional learning. So as part of the way that we structure it in the state, actually we've traveled to some state meetings, we're further ahead, some haven't even purchased anything yet. So again, celebrate where we are in the journey in a district of this scale. I would tell you we are fully ramping up. We have an entire full year immersion of PD into the classroom so teachers get time to talk with one another throughout the entire year. Remember, we're large. But our plan is next fall to be full go, to have this out of the box and ready to roll. Because we're in the business of learning, it never stops. So it will never be just like it's perfect, but next fall is full steam as part of our cycle.
Thank you.
Going back to the cell phone stuff, even after the parade, I was walking back to my car and ran into a teacher at Westland High School and I asked her how things were going and we started talking about the cell phones and she just gave me goosebumps because she was talking about the personalities and the writing that's really coming out of these kids. And honestly, I just wanna thank this whole board. We were all a united front on this, pushing this out, and I thank the teachers, administration for buying into it. I know change is hard, but this is a change that needed to be done. Thank you all. Like I said, you guys I was at Grove City High School, I had secretaries, I had custodians, I had the hall monitors, I had teachers all coming up to me saying what a difference the culture in the whole school was with the cell phones not being involved. So thank you guys. Ladies, I guess I keep saying that.
And to piggyback, we sat in on the first high school, Westland was the first student advisory session that we met with and to get their feedback. And the way those students were so articulate, and explaining and, sharing their input and thoughts was very, very impressive. They were talking about how in depth now they're able to have conversations, and not even realizing the in-depthness that they could go in conversations because they're not in their phones, and it's allowing their brain to think of things in a different way. So that was pretty cool to listen to and to see that they were even noticing it, and one saying, now we actually pay attention to the school announcements. So it's coming along.
Anyone else?
I don't have a question, but I do wanna say I very much appreciate the update on this, and I appreciate the realness that's presented on where we're at, and the determination on continuing to improve, and the fact that, we can celebrate some really good stuff in this report card, and I am very excited to see, the direction that we're moving, and I can't wait to continue to watch it just get better. So thank you both for presenting.
Brian, Christine, thank you. Moving on now to our final presentation is the Nursing Service Committee. We'll have Paige Emmelhines, Kara Folichetti, and Carrie Chandler.
Yes, and I would just like to say, before we get started, I just want to take a second to reorient ourselves with how we got here and why we decided that we needed a nursing committee. On March 11th, the Board of Education appointed an ad hoc committee to study the scope of nursing services within Southwestern City School District. I was appointed as co-chair, and Mrs. Peterson was appointed as chair, and we have met 4 times since May 7th, just having some really great conversation about what all is involved. I kind of went into the committee not knowing much about what they do on a day-to-day basis, other than the general things that you might expect that health services would do. So I have been privileged to learn so much about the day-to-day, and I'm very excited to have you ladies present to us this evening.
Thank you. Hello. So in the district, as Kelly said, our district formed the Nursing Services Committee to sort of have an overall discussion of the scope of practice of nursing and so forth, and what that looks like specifically in our district and its schools. Our committee members were, we had 2 RNs, a former med monitor, a health aide, 1 administrator, the preschool coordinator, and the director of special ed, who is currently currently supervising health services, and then 2 board members, Camille and Kelly. We also had our previous superintendent who attended a meeting, and now Mr. Franks has also attended one, but he is a non-voting member of the committee. Also, the meeting minutes are available and provided by Sarah Motz. We mostly wanted to help shed light and bring attention to the importance of the health services and its value to our community and schools. As our enrollment rates continue to rise exponentially, so does the acuity and healthcare needs of our students, staff, and community. Our students must be educated to be healthy, but they also must be healthy to be educated. I'm gonna pass it on.
Okay, I'm taking this thing out. So Kelly kind of went over this, but so why was this committee formed, right? If you recall, last year there was an incident that occurred that left the board and you guys, the public, asking, what is the role of the nurse in the school and what do they do? So let me just tell you about a typical day as a school nurse. Actually, I'm just kidding because it's never the same day today. We used to have 11 nurses for 34 buildings, but thanks to this board, we gained another nurse this year, so we really appreciate that. We manage a large caseload of students, and as you can tell, we are assigned to multiple buildings. We do have medication monitors in each building, and there are health aides as well. Besides the daily distribution of medications, inhalers, injections, and first aid, some of the health conditions we deal with are mental health disorders, seizures, tube feeding, urinary catheterization, tracking heart monitors, tracheostomy management, students with oxygen, colostomies, urostomies, ileostomies, sounds like a song, eating disorders, chronic conditions, diabetes, cystic fibrosis, Addison's disease, spina bifida, cardiac conditions, chromosome problems that lead to rare disorders, pediatric cancers, and it goes on and on. Nurses are also tasked with yearly individual health plans, 504s, ETRs, some with safety plans, required state screenings, immunization, and ODH required reporting. So, I'm sure there's more that I'm missing, but this is all mixed into the life of a school nurse. What I thought would be ice, lice, and Band-Aids, it turns out it's more like working in a triage or an urgent care clinic. So the next question at hand was, what is the role of nurse and what is the scope of practice? So I got with the Ohio Department of Health and the Ohio Board of Nursing. So just like our job description states that we must be a professional licensed Bachelor of Nursing registered nurse, this means that a school nurse is a real registered nurse. A registered nurse has a scope of practice in which they must abide by and adhere to laws and rules of the Ohio Board of Nursing and professional standards. Just because we work in a school setting does not mean that our scope of practice changes. Whether we work in a hospital, an insurance company, a clinic, a nursing home, or a school, a registered nurse's standard role and scope of practice remains consistent. Next slide. Now, there are different duties that are taken on in different settings, and this is what led to looking at the job descriptions. Not just the nurse, but also looking at the medication monitor and the health aide. Leadership members of the committee brought these to the table to be reviewed. The committee members helped to look at the current descriptions and noticed they were outdated and not as clear and defined as they should be. Now, hold on. Let me tell you, there are hyperlinks on here, but let me tell you, these are just hyperlinks to the job descriptions, but this is a work in progress. It is not close to being finished, and there are multiple things that need to be revisited in those, so those, don't take those as anything final. But by updating these descriptions, it will help to define the roles and responsibilities to ensure the health and safety of that employee, as well as the students and the staff.
You can move to the next slide. So the committee's second recommendation to the Board of Education is to complete some research and data collection. And now we understand that this will be a process. It could take multiple steps, and there will be many moving parts. But we encourage the district to conduct a comparison study looking at other districts within our similar demographic and size on how they are addressing their staffing and health-related issues in their buildings to meet students' needs. Keep in mind that this may require you to look at other districts outside of Central Ohio. On the slide, we provided some factors to consider when conducting this research for other districts. So, those factors may look at the ratio of accredited health personnel to students, consideration of the demographics of each district research serves, and then to compare each district's cost per pupil for health services. Next slide. In closing, our committee believes that it is crucial to keep the clinic staff handbook up to date. Among the nursing team of now 12, there are 2 committee groups. These groups work on professional development and process improvement for the health teams. This handbook was refined by the nursing committees, not to be confused with this committee that we are currently talking about this evening. Last year, hard copies of these handbooks were placed in each clinic for reference. The goal of this handbook is to reinforce consistent use of routine care guidelines within the clinic. The handbook provides guides on how to treat basic healthcare needs and common medical emergencies such as asthma, allergies, seizures, and etc. It also provides a reference on how to complete and log basic electronic health data. As the handbook cover highlights, students must be healthy to be educated and educated to be healthy. So this underscores our current committee purpose to inform the school, community, and the public about our current standards while promoting greater consistency in the health services across our buildings. Thank you.
I would just like to share, in closing, that Kelly and I, have had a great experience working on this committee. I agree with Kelly, I have learned so much. And we joke on this committee and we laugh and then we have our serious moments. But you know, we use the word educating. They're educating me and I'm educating them on something. And so it has really gave us an opportunity to be able to collaborate and talk about a very serious topic and ensuring that we are headed in the right direction. What I want this committee to know that is that we thank you to all of our committee members for them lending their time, expertise, skill sets towards this work. We are truly fortunate to have such dedicated professionals in the room representing a broad swath of roles and caring for our student medical needs, and their expertise will continue to be sought out in decision making. Finally, we know that this 15-20 minute presentation is hard to capture all of what has been going on and what has been happening as we discuss in this committee. And therefore, we just want to make sure everyone, as a reminder, that you can visit the nursing committee webpage under the board meeting dates. Meredith's going to take you to where it's at. And there is the full counting of our minutes, our agendas, and any upcoming meetings that will come up, so that if you are available and want to sit in the public audience to observe our meetings, you are allowed to. But I truly, truly thank these 3 ladies for coming forth and being willing to present on behalf of their committee members. And it has just been a really tremendous, great experience of collaboration. And so we will continue the work. So, questions?
I have some. Thank you again, everyone that's been a part of this committee. I know it's not easy on top of your day-to-day to continue doing even more. So I appreciate all the time everyone's put into this. And I should apologize. I'm not a part of the committee, so I know the time's not made for me, but these are like at my pickup times and work times, so I apologize I haven't been, but I know you guys are doing great things. You guys kind of answered a lot of my questions, but kind of going forward, have you met with the Ohio Board of Nursing yet, or is that gonna be in one of those meetings that you have coming up? Like, do you have a schedule when you have people coming in, like, to consult with, or?
So that has been on a couple of our different meeting agenda topics. In fact, I think it started us out the gate.
Yes, it did.
Started
We
us out
actually
the
had
gate.
somebody that was willing to come forth from the Ohio Department of Health Division of Nursing, just to kind of go over like scope of practice and what nursing is, but and Mr. Banks, this was before you came on, so somehow it got canceled and was deferred. You know, I don't think that leadership thought that we were ready for it at that time. So I would be happy to reach out to them again.
So, and it's more things to come for additional things we are discussing and looking into. So it's not necessarily off of the table. That's what I was,
Oh, yeah.
I
That's what
agree with
wondering.
Kara. It's not off the table. We're hoping that, some of the recommendation, about research and data collection, that's gonna help us in generating our next discussions for our next coming up meetings to see where we can lend to bring in some more information.
Okay. Is that the research and data, is that gonna be like the community is doing that, or is that like an outside group is gonna be doing that, or how does that?
So
work?
that is gonna be the role of me and Kelly, pressing on with the district, which me and Kelly did have an opportunity stemming off of one of our committee meetings, actually, to meet with, Mr. Banks and Hugh. And so we actually have some thoughts about how that data collection can be done. And so that's where I call it the homework of me and Kelly. We take homework assignments and they take homework assignments. And that is where it's gonna be our duty to work with the district so that we ensure we, can get this data information collected.
I didn't know if that was something that like the Ohio Board of Nursing like already had, like as school nurses, and like this is kind of how it plays out. I know I've looked at some other districts and how their, you know, job descriptions of nurses and how they do things, and it's like, oh, okay, that's really cool. Like
We
how you
did pull
collaborate
that,
together.
yes, we did pull that information. This one, we wanted to go in a little bit more, on some other specific, questions. Because the first kicker to starting off our meeting was on the qualifications, and it was a grid chart, so we could see what was in other districts' descriptions and what did they have. This comparison study we would like to do, we wanna pick out some more details, some little bit more in-depth details, which will generate, some more discussion in these, meetings, cause now we're a little bit diving past just what's in job descriptions that we wanna know.
And have you guys voted yet? You mentioned voting, and I was like, oh, is that a thing? What do you guys like?
We vote on the meeting minutes and the agenda. We don't vote in anything else, we keep it to, do we agree that these meeting minutes are accurate wording, and our agenda of what we have on the topics for discussion. It was very interesting and fun interacting with them for the first meeting, to get them used to having a recorder typing. We're used to it, cause Hugh is here, so getting them used to Sarah taking our meeting minutes.
Sounds exciting. I'm excited.
I think it's great with all the positive things coming from this committee as far as we need more nurses. But the biggest thing why this committee was set up is just the scope of these ladies' practice and letting them be at ease on doing their job without knowing they're not gonna get fired or in trouble. I think that's the main reason these nurses are here, this whole committee got established. So, I mean, I hope that's the
important.
biggest
Yeah.
end game, but there's a lot of great things coming from you, what you guys are doing, and we needed it in this district. And I think going outside our district and looking at other districts is gonna help out tremendously. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
And it includes the med monitors and health aides, don't leave them out. They all service the clinic.
Hard work.
Thank you, ladies.
Yes, thank you.
All right, moving on for items for action under student, school, and community with Mrs. Martindale.
Okay, I just have 3 items here that I have looked over that I would like to share with the board. The first one is Jackson Middle School 8th grade students have the opportunity to travel to Washington DC. This trip is gonna take place May 6th through the 9th of 2025. The students will miss 3 days of school, and trip expenses are paid by students and parents. Central Crossing High School Marching Band is been given the opportunity to perform at Bands of America Grand National Championships, which is held at the Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. This is gonna happen November 15th and 16th of 2024. Students will miss 1 day of classes, and trip expenses are paid by students, parents, and fundraising through band boosters. And then Grove City High School's NJROTC is gonna get the opportunity to travel to San Diego, California. This trip is going to take place April 3rd through the 6th of 2025. Students will miss 2 days of school, and trip expenses are paid by students, fundraising, and the U.S. Navy reimbursement. So having reviewed Well, hold on, we actually have one more. I forgot about it. I didn't scroll down far enough. Last one. All right. Grove City High School show choirs are requesting to travel to Hurricane, West Virginia. This trip is planned for February 1st and 2nd of 2025. Students are not going to miss any school days, and all trip expenses are paid by boosters. So now, having reviewed these 4 items, I move them for passage.
Thank you so much. Can I get a second?
Second, Peterson?
Thank you, Mrs. Peterson. Can I get roll call, please?
Ms. Martindale?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Steele?
Yes.
Ms. Liskini?
Yes.
Mr. Bosso?
Yes. Moving on now for items for action under personnel with Mrs. Peterson.
All right, our personnel report. You guys know we hiring. It ain't changed, we're hiring. And, right now, oh, but we need some bus drivers. Just messing with you guys. But right now, right now, hot ticket positions, okay? Full-time and substitute educational aides, bus drivers, custodians, cooks. Please don't forget about the special bonus incentives that we have going on. And we're gonna just continue to push to get some more positions filled. The personnel department, they've been busy. They've been out in that field, they've been to job fairs recruiting, and they are continuing on and trying to get this district staffed up. But we know every day is a challenge, and we will keep going forward, and we are very excited about eventually where we will be. For tonight's board meeting report, we have 6 personnel items involving 183 persons. 4 is certificated resignations or retirements. 2 are classified resignations. 7 is certificated changes in employment status. 147 certificated employment. 114 is supplementals of that 147. 4 classified changes in employment and 21 classified employments. After reviewing the report, I move this report for passage.
What is that, supplemental?
Those are brain freeze, just that fast.
What is,
Uh,
what does
supplementals.
supplementals mean? The 114
Something to
supplementals?
do outside of the school day.
Right,
Oh,
so those activities that's not within the range of that.
Coaches and club.
Like coaches?
Coaches,
Clubs.
clubs,
Things like
yeah. I was like, we're missing another category, but I can't think of what it is.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Peterson. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Ms. Peterson?
I will be abstaining tonight from voting due to, I am related to someone in the report.
Ms. Martindale?
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Steele?
Yes.
Ms. Liskini?
Yes.
Mr. Bosso?
Yes. Moving on now for items for discussion. Does anybody have any items for discussion? I know we discussed a lot tonight.
We did. That's good
Anyone? Seeing none, I'll make a motion for adjournment. It's recommended the Board of Education meeting be adjourned. Can I get a second?
Second, Liskini.
Thank you, Mrs. Liskini. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Liskini?
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Steele?
Yes.
Ms. Martindale? Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Bosso?
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for being here, all the presenters. Thank you so much. Loved it. Have a good evening. Who did we hire? It's related to you.
Jeremiah.
Check this person out.
Jeremiah, no, substitute. I contributed to those substitute numbers.